Mickey Kaus is the man behind the popular Kaus Files blog. He is also a recent U.S. Senate candidate. As I told him that day, the idea was inspired, communicated directly to me by these two gentlemen, George Munoz and Ed Crego, who first presented the concept of the against line on our show in an edition of the Solutions Express. It's one of the ideas in their book, Renewing the American Dream. They are the authors of that book, and they join us from Florida. We'll start with them. George, Ed, where did you guys come up with this?
Well, it's just sort of a common sense idea. You know, the Constitution, if somebody tries to keep you from voting, that's unconstitutional. But if the system keeps you from voting, which is what you just described, Dylan, somehow that's permitted. And it just seems like this was just a common sense solution.
And I'll add.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
I'll add to that, Dylan. Right now, if you look at the way the electorate breaks out, a recent poll shows that 37% of citizens declare themselves as independents or nonpartisans, 34% call themselves Democrats, 29% Republicans. But the independents and nonpartisans are disenfranchised from the primary system. The primaries are closed. They can't vote for candidates. So if you don't open it up and give them a chance to vote for none of the above or vote against candidates, they have a motley choice by the time we get to the general election.
It seems like there's even something more to this in that, like with any scientific system, the intentions of the users of that system ideally should be as best reflected as to what they are. If I'm in favor of something, you should record me in favor of something. If I'm against something, you should record me against something. If the data came back positive, it should be recorded as positive. If it comes back negative, you say it's negative. It's a peculiar manipulation of the system to deny the users of the system the ability to actually articulate their actual point of view and instead manipulate that frustration to perpetuate this race to the bottom. Ed?
Yeah, Dylan, what I would say, I would agree with you. As a matter of fact, what we're doing is we're channeling opposition down to the lowest common denominator. What we need to do is we need to elevate the choice for those people who are what I would call in the moderate in the middle and not being forced into choosing what I would call they're presented with non-options.
Mickey, when you pitched this in your column, the premise of your pitch was a little crazy, certainly outside the box, also seems to have a lot of benefits, which we're discussing, but you also said, listen, if anybody can think of what's wrong with this, please tell me. I'm curious what sort of criticism you came up with.
The best criticism I got is what happens if all the candidates lose? Does the existing office holder stay in office? How long does this process take? Couldn't it take months and months and months, and you wouldn't have a U.S. senator, for example, because as in California, I would hit the reboot button every time.
What about that, George?
Well, I think, there's good solutions to all of that. That happens all the time when somebody has to leave office, they pass away or the like. So I think there's solutions. But I do think it's the Dylan reboot. This concept is actually spreading around. The UK has been talking about this movement for a little bit now, and I think it can come to the U.S. The Tea Party is just one example, one symptom of the frustration. Yeah. So I think the U.S. is ready for this.
Mickey, talk about what you see as the campaign impact of having to campaign to be voted for, as opposed to manipulating the current structure.
Well, I think negative ads wouldn't work as well, because even if they knock down your opponent, they knock you down too. So you might lose on the, people might vote against you too. So there'll be less negative advertising. You get more moderates, as I think has already been suggested. And most important at all, you'd get positive voter buy-in. What we were talking about, you would have to find somebody you were comfortable with having govern you. You'd be for them, not just for them as the lesser of two evils, but actually for them. That, I think, means you'd cut them more slack and give them a chance to come up with solutions in a way that cynical voters don't do now.
Ed, what is your vision of a campaign where pick your favorite whoever is running, but the only way I can get it done is to get more than 50% for votes, and quite honestly, no other variable matters when the objective is to get half the room to vote for your ideas? How does that change the dynamic of the campaign in your view?
What we've done, Dylan, with that is we've ensured that we have a comedy of conversation. We have dialogue and discourse. And what we're doing is we're presenting ideas that appeal to people as opposed to engaging in the negative attack ads that we've just seen. We've had $4 billion spent in this past campaign. The campaign was run for the ad agencies and not for the people. We've got to ensure that we give the electoral process back to the people. I think this process would start to do
All right,
that.
listen, Ed, George, thank you so much for sharing the idea with me. And Mickey, thank you so much for putting an amplifier on the idea and soliciting for the necessary criticism of something like this. It's a pleasure to have all three of you here today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dylan, and thank you for picking up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Up next, something real scary this Halloween. A new low when it comes to Tea Party paranoia about voter fraud. While there is a version of the race to the top we were just discussing, we'll take a moment here to revel in the current race to the bottom. We're back after this.
The Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express is designed to be brilliant. It's the only charge card to earn triple points on airfare, double points on gas and groceries, a single point on everything else. Points you can use for over 1 million rewards, including travel on any airline, anytime. The annual fee for the first year is on us, and you can earn 10,000 bonus points with your first purchase. Start earning brilliantly. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit axpgold.com to apply.
I'm Dawn Jones, and I have stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer. I drive myself down to Philadelphia to get to Cancer Treatment Centers of America because you can't put a price tag on your life, honestly. I'll see you when I get back.
My particular situation is a real serious and aggressive cancer.
I do have Cry Fest. Once I finish crying, I feel so much better. It feels like I've shed something old and I'm acquiring something new. You need to be in an environment where the focus is the whole person, not just treating a disease. I'm going to be taking a CAT scan today. So I'm just preparing myself mentally if they're going to tell me we have to treat you with something different and be a little more aggressive.